Welcome to the Kerry Barrett Show. I'm Kerry Barrett. Along with expert interviews about social media, about video marketing, and about video strategy, this podcast is the place that you'll come to learn to show up comfortably, confidently, and compellingly on camera so that you can leverage the lens for every single opportunity it can give you. That means social media, it means content creation, it means media opportunities, course creation, and audience visibility and growth. I overcame a debilitating fear of speaking to go on to a 25-year Emmy Award-winning on-camera career. But it's only when I realized the connection wasn't about perfection, but about realness and relatability that my success on camera and in my business soared. It's how I grew my brand online and in life. And this is where you will learn to do the same. So let's jump in. Welcome and thanks for listening and watching the Kerry Barrett Show. I am super excited to introduce you to our guest today. If you don't know Jeff Walker or not familiar with his name, this episode is going to be a real treat to you. As a business owner and a founder and hopefully a video content creator, you're likely looking for ways to diversify revenue stream, maybe reach more people and impact more people. And if you are, Jeff is the person for you. He is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Launch. And he teaches people how to launch online courses, how to launch products, services, how to launch brands as well online. Jeff, it is fantastic to have you with us. What did I miss? What else? Tell me more about yourself.
Oh, more about me. First of all, thank you, Kerry. I'm delighted to be here. I do have this book. It was a #1 New York Times bestseller, but everything came from, I've been online in business online since 1996. So you do the math, it's almost 30 years. I was an online publisher and entrepreneur and course seller and course creator long before I wrote the book. So the book came of the outgrowth. How do you get to be a #1 New York Times bestseller with your first book? Well, you build up a platform and have an email list and have a social following, and then the bestseller follows from that. I tried to give as much as I could in that book. I think it's a great book. And we've got, we're closing in on, 800 or 900 4-star or 5-star reviews. But, the thing to understand is everything I've done, and I've now sold, over $100 million of my courses and online, but my students have done over $1 billion. So this is all just very, very proven. There's a well-worn path. It's the most amazing business. Before we started recording, we were just talking about, I live in Durango, Colorado, which is about 300 miles from the nearest big city. I live out in the mountains in Colorado, and I live here because I can live anywhere because I have this online business that I've had for a very long time. It's an amazing business.
How has the business changed? Before we jump into sort of the tactics and what people need to be considering, how has that business changed? You mentioned you've been in it for 30 years. I know certainly since the pandemic and maybe in the last decade or so, it's grown exponentially, but how have you seen it change?
That's a great question. And in some ways it's just radically changed, like no one could ever imagine. In other ways, it's the same as ever. In fact, it'll be interesting because we're talking, your expertise is video and on camera, and your followers are interested in that. We'll definitely have to talk about that because that was a monumental shift. Because when I started my business in 1996, it was 100% email based. That was sort of the only tool. I mean, there weren't even blogs back then. There wasn't social media. There wasn't video. There wasn't even audio online. And frankly, the first sales I made were people printed out a form and wrote out a check and mailed me the check, because taking online payments in 1996 and 1997 was something that was like rocket science. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
We went from email to, then we had blogs, then we could do audio, then we had social media, then we could do really ugly screen capture video, and then we could do sort of ugly video, like talking head kind of video. And then we went to cinematic, narrative driven video. Then we went to live broadcast. So it's been one tool after another. that we've been able to add to the quiver. So it's radical change. Another radical change is I was selling online education in the 90s. It was pretty weird back then.
Yeah.
Now, like, everyone's bought a course or some type of content online. I mean, my wife was officiated her sister's wedding a few years ago. She's never done anything like that before. So she went and bought a course on how to officiate weddings. Yeah. And oh, by the way, it was like the best wedding ever. She did an amazing job. So the idea of online education is just, it's gone beyond the new normal to just, it's permeated every aspect of our life. So that makes it a lot easier to sell. Things that haven't changed is sort of the process where you bring people in and you build a relationship, you warm that relationship with them, you deliver value, and then you ask for the sale. And I have this process that I spent about 8 years developing, and then I started teaching it in 2005. Mm-hmm. I call it the product launch formula. It's pretty much what I cover in that book launch. And that formula is completely changed in many ways because of all these new tools that we have. Audio, video, live broadcast, blog, social media, all those tools have been added in. But the core of, like, at the end of the day, if you're selling some type of training, coaching, consulting, some type of a course, a membership site, what you're affecting change. You're transforming people's lives. No matter whether you're teaching them meditation or teaching them to find the love of their life or teaching them how to hit their tennis serve 10 miles an hour faster, it doesn't matter. You're delivering some type of transformation. And so your marketing, really, at the end of the day, you're telling the story of your future clients' future success.
Yeah.
And that's what my formula does. And it's super effective. It allows you to sell without being an amazing salesperson. And it allows you to, I know there's a lot of people that have a discomfort with sales and marketing. And frankly, that was me back in the 90s. I had no idea how to do this. I just sort of stumbled upon this formula, and then it's been evolved and tweaked over the years. But this is how you don't have to be the salesman or the salesperson with the silver tongue. You're just delivering this story arc, which at the end of the day is the story of your client's future success.
Right. It's their transformation. Is this something that works no matter? And let's say we're talking B2B. Is this something that works almost regardless of what you do? Let's assume you're a business owner and you create social media content or blogs for a corporation, right? And you work only with larger organizations, but you'd like to help smaller business owners also create content, except they don't have the budget to pay you to write blogs for them every week or twice a week or whatever it is. So is the opportunity here a course that person could create that would then teach a small business owner how to create the blog? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that term B2B can mean a lot of different things. It could mean, you're selling a small business, or it could mean you're selling a CRM package for $500,000 to a Fortune 100 company. So it's a big range, but in general, the answer is yes. Certainly, if you're selling to small businesses, absolutely. I mean, that's primarily what I do. I'm selling to small business and micro and solo entrepreneurs, but I'm primarily selling to businesses. So it will absolutely work for that. And actually, it will work for selling those CRM systems to really big companies, but it's inherently a little different because the sale you're making in that case is more to get in the door to make the presentation. So your launch would be to just get in the door. A well-trodden path is to teach or consult or coach one-on-one, and you build up your chops and you get good at that. And then you go from there to running a small group program where you learn how to teach one to many or one to several. And then you take the experience there and put it into like a course or a membership site where you're selling to many.
What does a course need to have in it? And I may be asking you a question that has no answer, so bear with me. But what does a course need to contain in order to have it provide the transformation that is, required or desired by the client, and that that it sort of crosses all the T's and dots the I's? Certainly you're picking up some of that information when you're doing one-on-one and then you're doing group. And do you structure your course based entirely on those experiences, or what else do you need to consider as you're putting together a
sort of curriculum?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. It strikes at the heart of so much that ends up holding people back. So what you need to start out with is like, what is the outcome that I want to deliver to my people? So like, I have this expertise. What's the outcome? And what a lot of people, the mistake people make when they're creating a course or a membership is they try to put everything in it, like every bit of experience they've ever had in their lives, right? And because like you just want to create, you're uncomfortable, you maybe have a little that imposter syndrome, you just want to deliver value, you just want to take care of people, so you just put everything in, and you end up with this something that can be absolutely overwhelming, and people will never go through it all. And also then it leads to your marketing is about like you get 14 modules and it's a 6-month program and another 18 months of follow-up calls. And it's just this overwhelming thing but people don't want to buy modules. They don't want to buy coaching calls. They don't want to buy videos. At the end of the day, in some ways, the course is more a burden to them than anything. They want to buy the outcome. So if you first start visualizing what that outcome is that you're going to promise and that you're going to deliver, and then you work back from there to say, well, how can I do that? And how can I do it in the most efficient way possible? Because in the old days, there used to be this thing they called the thud factor. Back when we sold courses that we actually shipped out on CDs and DVDs and books. And I used to do that. I mean, in the early days, it wasn't online courses, it was physical stuff. Yeah. And the idea of thud factor was like, you want it to be impressive. Like thud was the sound when the UPS driver dropped it on their on their porch. It was impressive. And in the old days, that was great because people, they had this feeling of, oh, I just bought this big thing. I paid all this money, but I got a big thing, a big box. We're all too busy for that now.
Yeah. How do you know you're right. Because I've made that mistake before. I'm like, oh, this course is 53 hours. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it has everything in it. And it's like, no. So how do you gauge is there an ideal, or how do you figure out what that sweet spot is for your ideal buyer client?
I have this process that I teach. It's called the seed launch. And actually, you sort of hinted at it already a couple of questions ago, is if you take your one-on-one expertise, or for me, it was launches. Like I spent 8 years, and the first 8 years I wasn't teaching marketing. I was teaching about the stock market. Yep. So I spent those years figuring out how to launch. And then I decided, well, I had something coming up in my life, and I shifted businesses, radical 180 shift. And in 2005, I said, I'm going to start teaching marketing. And so at that point, I had 8 years of really stellar results. I'd really built up this body of work on how to do launches, but I didn't know how to teach it. I knew how to do it. I didn't know how to teach it. Yeah. So I coached a few people one-on-one, started to figure out this will work in other markets besides teaching about the stock market. The first one was actually how to write love letters. That was like the
we need to have another episode about that.
Yeah. I was reading in the voice of this beautiful young woman on how to write love letters. In any case, I worked with a few one-on-one, and then I did what we call a seed launch. So this is a small group program where I had about 20, 30 people I took through this program, and I taught them in a very interactive way. And this is what we call a seed launch. So basically sell it. Hey, I've got this workshop coming up. I'm going to do a series of, nowadays you would do it on Zoom or Instagram Live or YouTube Live. It'd be much easier. But back then, this is 2005, I did it on bridge lines, phone calls. Oh, wow. Kerry, maybe you remember those back in the old days.
I do remember those. I remember the conference call.
Yeah, it was a conference call, and I sent them a Word doc where I'd walk But in that process, I learned how to teach people to launch. I learned what the questions were, the things that I would never have thought would have been a question because I've been doing it for 8 years. And it's that curse of knowledge. I wasn't a beginner anymore. So I learned what a beginner needed. So I delivered it over 6 calls. And then I added a couple bonus calls where I just was super interactive and answered every question. And in that process, I figured out what were the steps that I needed to teach and what could I cut out. And so that allowed me to create my first version and shoot the videos for that. It was all screen cap video back in those days. But that allowed me to do it. And then frankly, I kept on remaking the course over and over and over and over. And because I was selling it from 2005 till now, we've been selling it. It's radically different. I will tell you, it ended up getting, 2008 was the first online version. It was a $2,000 course in 2008, which was completely groundbreaking back then. But in 2009, 2010, it started to get bloated, and I kept on adding more and more. And it did end up, I don't know if it was ever 56 hours, but it was probably like 35 hours. It just got, like every piece of software out there got bloated and bloated and bloated.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, this is too much. And so we ended up just paring it down, taking the stuff and when I say we, by this time now I've built up a team, and I've got a content team that's helping me, and they're amazing. And they're like, Jeff, this part's great, but let's make this a bonus instead of making it part of the course. Yeah. And so now I obsess about making it as easy to consume and as easy to implement as possible. And I'll do things like, it's like actually 8 modules right now, but when I sell it, I actually tell people there's 6 modules, because the last 2 modules are super advanced stuff that they don't need to know when they're starting out, that I just didn't want to take out. But I say 6 modules because that feels easier to consume, So,
and then there's a bonus if they want it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so when it sounds like video, let me ask you a question about that and jump into some of the marketing, but it sounds like video has revolutionized the way that certainly you're creating your programs and others and marketing them as well. Are courses still as, I don't know if lucrative is the right word, but are they still selling, and are they still as valuable to a business owner as they were, let's say, 5 or so years ago? The question is the market saturated?
They're every bit as lucrative. I just did a launch of my course a few months ago. We sold $3 million, just under $3 million of it.
Nice.
In 4 days, I think it was. And I'm good at this. I've got a little experience. It has, since the pandemic, everyone was home online, and it feels like half the people that were home online said, maybe I'll start an online business and I'll create an online course. So there's more competition right now. They're just fact. There is more competition. So it means your marketing has got to be better, and you have to deliver results. The golden path to success is creating results for your clients, and then have them become your evangelist that'll go tell the story of their success. And then you can share the story of their success. And people have gotten more sophisticated in that, like often the course is just the first step into your universe. So actually for me, it's the book. You can go get the book on Kindle for $10, right? Yeah. And then there's the course for $2,000. And it's everything we got. But then including a year of calls with my coaches, weekly calls with my coaches. But then if people really want to step in, and once they get some traction, if they really want to go from just having a launch and having a nice little business, but now they want to really start to scale that business. These kind of businesses can grow really large. If they want that. Then we have a coaching program that's quite a bit more. It's like $14,000 a year. But now they have coaches that are reviewing all their marketing materials, that are debriefing one-on-one with them when they do their launch, where there's a coaching call available every business day of the year. This is the story of my business, which is I've been evolving over the years. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've built up a great big team. I've already thrown out some numbers that might scare people. So I want to, we can go back to that and ground people a little bit. I usually try to ground people first with where I started, because it was very, very humble. But, that bringing people into your world with a course or a membership, and then having a higher end offer, whether it is some type of a coaching or some type of one-on-one or some type of consulting, that is the magic ticket to really start to grow your business. And when you start out, you're not starting out with all of that. You're starting out with just the course. And it could be a simple course. And probably the best way to start is with that seed launch that I talked about, where you're running a small workshop for a limited number of people and you're actually selling it before it's actually created. You sell it and then you do those calls. So it's beautiful because you're making sales before you've actually created anything.
Curious about the grounding.
When I started out, I had 2 young children I was taking care of. And this was in the mid 90s. And it was really weird to be a stay-at-home dad in the mid 90s. That was like, I had committed career suicide. I was a corporate failure. It was a bad chapter of my life.
Movie about that. Was it with Michael Keaton, Mr. Mom, I think it's called.
Exactly. In fact, I used to always say I was Mr. Mom, but now that film's so old, I just say I was a stay-at-home dad. And now people understand I was a primary caregiver. There we go. And we were struggling. My wife had a nice job, but it was a 1-income family and we had 2 young kids and a mortgage and all the things. And so my wife's like, hey, can you try to make $10,000 in a year? It would help take so much pressure off. And I was like, okay, yeah, but I don't, I literally quit the week before I was going to get fired. And that's why I was home with the kids. And I'd been home with the kids for years. This is like 5 years into this. And so I came up with this idea to start publishing an online newsletter via email, which was a pretty crazy idea in 1996. Yeah, but it started to get traction through word of mouth. And then I was like, well, maybe I can sell something to him, but I've never sold anything to him in my life. Or I've never sold anything in my life other than like a bag of donuts when I was in Boy Scouts. And so I was scared to ask for the order. So I started romancing people and delivering value and delivering value and delivering value. And then I sent out that email that said, hey, we've got an enhanced, a better version of this newsletter that you can get if you want to pay me for it, and print out this email and fill out the form and send me a check. Yep. And that first launch, I didn't call it a launch back then, but that first launch made $1,650 in sales. And, money's a funny thing, Kerry. It's like, for some people that'd be like, well, what's the big deal? Other people, it's like, well, it's a lot of money. That's pretty cool. For me, if I could have done a backflip, I would have. I was so excited because I had never had anyone actually pay me money for something I created in my life. Yeah. I'd always had a job where I got a paycheck. Never. And I'll tell you that it's like flipped a switch in my head that I can create stuff and people can give me money. No freaking way. And it was unbelievable. And I had this thought that like, wow, I did that once. My goal is $10,000 in a year. I can do it a few more times and they might even get better. Yeah. And they did, they got better. They did. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've done, I don't even know how many times I've sold $1 million done $1 million in sales in a single day. I don't know. It's like 17, 18, 19 times, but I had $1 million hour. It was just nuts. But none of those launches are anywhere near as important as that first one that did $1,650 because it showed I could do it. Yeah. And everything's just been iterative and a baby step after baby step since then.
Yeah, everything sort of trickled out of that. That was the moment where everything sort of changed. You recognized there was opportunity here well before a lot of other people did. I mean, you were really sort of at the tip of the spear when it came to having this idea of even online knowledge sharing and programs and courses. Let me ask you this, and I hate that we're running out of time, but I want to ask you, in terms of marketing, a lot of times I think people think of the actual creation of the course as the really challenging part, and it can be time consuming, and there's a million different ways to do it. Is it delivered via email? Is it a challenge? Is it video programs, et cetera, and how are they supported? But let's say you have all of that together. Can you, I guess, sort of quickly details what are the bullets that its audience build and growth, certainly social, email list, et cetera, but what are those things that people need to be really diving deep into when it comes to putting together their marketing around this program? I know you talk a lot about the sideways sales letter, and there's a number of unique elements that you use in your marketing.
First of all, you have to understand that if you're listening to this, if you want to create a course or a membership site, your job is marketing. That it can get easy to get caught up in the course creation and just spend forever doing that and thinking, I'm going to create this amazing thing. And then, then people are going to find it. That's what we call on my campus, hope marketing. It's like you create something and you hope it sells. Like that since we're talking old movies, that movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come.
That's not true.
It just doesn't work. That just doesn't work. It's hope it's a wonderful word if you're shipwrecked at sea. It will literally keep you alive for extra days. But in business, hope is a losing strategy. And so you have to fall in love with your marketing. Some people are like, I just want to, help people. I have this great course. It's just going to change people's lives. Well, it's not going to change anyone's lives unless they buy it. And they can't buy it unless you market it well.
If they can't buy it, they don't know it's there.
Exactly. Yeah. And unless you can communicate the value of what's in that offer, what's in that course. So get obsessed with offers. You create a course. It's not about creating a course. It's about creating an offer. And the offer is, at the end of the day, it's not like we talked about this. It's not modules. It's not calls. It's the transformation. So, this formula that I've created basically walks people through 5, 6, 7 day pre-launch. And the pre-launch, it is the sideways sales letter. That's what we call it. And you know what? There's a lot of other people teaching. Most all of them either learn from me or learn from someone that learned from me. But you need to show people they have an opportunity for their life to get better. They have an opportunity to finally quit smoking. And yes, they've tried 18 different things. They've tried the patch. They've tried hypnosis. They've tried this, that, the other thing. But they actually can have that transformation. There is an opportunity. They can actually have that. And so the first piece is just showing them that opportunity. Their life can change. They can have a meditation practice. Even though they feel like there's thoughts running through their head all the time, they actually can meditate. They can find the love of their life. They can speak a second language. They can carve amazing wooden dolls. Yeah. Whatever it is, they can have that in their life. And then you have to show how their life will transform. If you're quitting smoking, well, yeah, you're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to live longer. But you know what? You're also going to impact your friends around you. And you're going to impact your children. And your children are going to impact their grandchildren. And when you can show the true transformation that someone will have, and even if it's just they're going to hit in golfing, they're going to hit their drives 10 yards further, it's still a transformation that goes beyond just a ball going a little further.
Yeah,
they're going to have more confidence in their life, right? Just knitting a sweater. It's not just you end up with a sweater. It's all you become this person who has knit this sweater, your friends can see that you've knit that sweater. You have this confidence that you can do hard things and follow through. So no matter what you're selling, there's transformation at levels that you're probably not articulating, and maybe your people haven't even thought of. Yeah. So when you can show that opportunity and then expand on that transformation, and then take people into actually owning that future self. In other words, in their mind saying, yeah, it's not like I think I might be able to quit smoking I think I can be that person who quit smoking.
I'm going to be a non-smoker.
Yep. And then at that point, you've taken them up to actually enrolling in their future selves and enrolling in your program. I love that word, enrollment. I love to enroll people. I love to enroll them in a future life that is better than the life they have. I mean, to me, it is a sacred duty. Yeah. Like for me, it's helping people build a business where they're going to share their wisdom out there in the world and make the world better. I tell you, Kerry, there are doctors in this world, doctors, nurses, health practitioners that can read echocardiograms far better because of me. Now, I don't really even know what an echocardiogram is. But one of my students created this amazing continuing education that is all about reading echocardiogram. I mean, there are people that have not had heart attacks because of me. So it is my sacred duty to share my work as well as I can.
Yeah.
And your sacred duty is I don't know all of it. Part of it's like getting people to show up as their authentic selves on video and being comfortable not being perfect, but putting their foot out there and getting their foot out there. And all of a sudden they're going to start to build a platform and they're going to start to build an audience and they're going to be able to get their work out there. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And so I think taking people up to that enrollment step and then being I'm unattached to whether anyone enrolls with me or not. You know, my business has gotten to the size where any individual person, I'm never even going to know if they buy from me or not. It's easy for me to be unattached now. It was harder for me to be unattached 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But the reality is you walk people up to that possibility of enrollment. And now you're not being a used car salesman, being some slimy salesperson. It's like, we walk through how your life can change. We walk through what your life will look like if you make that. I've asked you to like take on the ownership of who you're going to become. Now it's like, are you willing to step from I can? Remember we went through that. Maybe it'll work, and then I can to I will. Mm-hmm. Because this is your opportunity to say I will, to enroll in yourself. And the way you enroll in yourself is enrolling in this program that I've shown you how it works.
I love it. I wish we had more time because I have a million other questions. So maybe we'll have to do another episode. But in the meantime, if people are interested in your book, and we'll put this all in the show notes, if people are interested in your book or your program or learning a little bit more about how to work with you, if they want that sort of high touch coaching, where should they go to get that information or learn more about the product launch formula?
Yep. So the book is available at Amazon or any place where books are sold. It's just called Launch by Jeff Walker. It's really easy to find. I have the product launch formula. It's just at productlaunchformula.com. It's currently, as we're talking, it's not on the market, but I've got a bunch of free stuff that you can get because I release it periodically. We run it as like a college class where we bring people in on a cohort. But there's always free training available at productlaunchformula.com. And then like I'm on YouTube, I've got a channel there. It's called Product Launch. But if you just search Jeff Walker Product Launch, it'll come up.
And I release you're on all the socials, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Jeff Walker, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, your time, your expertise, and thank you to the audience for being here as well. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Kerry. Enjoyed it.